Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. Enjoy! With this question you just need to know the names of 3D shapes. This one is called a cylinder. So if we do our place value grid, and so we've got units here, tenths and hundredths. Don't think we need any more. So we can put in our number, it's 5.87, and you can see here that the 8 here is in the tenths column. So the 8 represents 8 tenths. A comparative bar chart is where you have two bars next to each other meaning different things. So it's probably easier just to start drawing it and then we can talk about it as we go along. So we've got males here at 12. And so what we want to do is a bar that is 12 high. And these are going up in twos. So it will be up here. There we go. And then right next to it, we're going to do females, which is 14. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make this go up to 14. And there we go. Now, we need to be able to tell these apart. So what I'm going to do is just shade in the females. And we should do a little key. And we say that if they're not shaded, it's males. And if they're shaded, that is females. Okay, let's carry on with the bar chart. So it's 14 and 6. So notice I've got gaps between the pairs. So we've got 14 and 6, which will be down here. And again, we're just going to shade in the females. And then finally, we've got 8 and 16. So 8 would be here. Then 16 would be up here. And finally, obviously, we're going to shade in the females. For this question, it's really important that we understand what the words sum and product mean. Now, sum just means add, and product just means times. So we're going to start by adding the 5 and the 4. So that will equal 9. And then what we're going to do is find the product of 9 and 7. So we're going to multiply them together. 9 times 7, which is 63. So our answer is 63. For us to create the smallest number, we need to pick the smallest digits at the start of the number. So the smallest digit is 3, then the next smallest digit is 4, next smallest digit is 5, then the next smallest digit is 8. But it wants it to be an odd number, and this is an even number. So we have to move that 8 forward one and have that 5 at the end. So the smallest odd number is 3,485. So the key says that a circle represents 8 DVDs, and we're told that on Thursday there are 18 DVDs. So we need to rewrite 18 in kind of lots of 8. So that will be an 8 plus 8, which is 16, plus a 2. So we know it will be 2 full circles. So let's get those 2 full circles in. And that will represent 16. But how do we represent 2? Well, if you think about it, if we cut this up into quarters, each quarter will represent 2. So 2, 4, 6, and 8. So we just need another quarter. And so that would be 8 for the first one, 8 for the second one, and then this little quarter will represent 2, which altogether is 18. there are 10 squares in total, so each square is worth 1/10. And if we count all of the shaded squares, we notice that in total there are 7 shaded squares. So that's 7 lots of 1/10, or 7/10. If we try to draw a quadrilateral with a pair of parallel sides, and then it's a quadrilateral, so join them up, it's got 4 sides, then the shape we draw will always be a trapezium. So our answer is that it is a trapezium. Now you might think that a rectangle and square does have one pair of parallel sides, but it actually has 2 pairs of parallel sides. The definition of a trapezium is it has just one pair of parallel sides, and any quadrilateral that has one pair of parallel sides is a trapezium. So we're going to start by writing 5/9 as a decimal, and to do that we just need to do 5 divided by 9, which will be 0.5 recurring. And to convert between a decimal and a percentage, we just times by 100. So we're going to get that 0.5 recurring, and we're going to times it by 100, and that will equal 55.555 recurring. And to the nearest percent, that's going to be 56, because that 5 will move that 5 up by 1. To work out the area of this shape, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work out the area of the big rectangle it's almost a big rectangle, and I'm going to take away the area of this small little bit at the bottom, and I'm going to label this big rectangle A and this little rectangle here B. So to work out the area of A, we're going to do 9.8, which is the width, times the length, which is 5.6. And that will give us 54.88. Now to work out B, we actually have a bit missing. We need to work out what the length of this bit here is. So in fact, let's just choose a different colour just so it shows up a bit more, this length here. So we're going to work out the length of this, and we'll call this C just to make things easier. So to work out the length of C, we're going to do the total length across of this whole shape, which is 9.8, and take away the bits that we know, which is the 4.3 and the 1.2. So we're going to do 4.3 plus 1.2, take that away from 9.8, and when I do that I get the answer of 4.3, and that's a coincidence that it's the same as the left hand one. So we know that that's 4.3, so we can work out the area of rectangle B, and all we're going to do for that is the 4.3 we've just found times the 2.4, because it's obviously a length of 2.4. When I do that I get 10.32. Now to work out the area of the whole shape, so the area of the rectangle, all we need to do is the area of A take away the area of B. So the area of A was 54.88, and we're going to take away the 10.32, and that gives us a 44.56. And all the units are in centimetres, so our units for the area will be centimetres squared. So what we did was we found out the total area, which is the whole area of this shape here, and we took away the bit we didn't want, which is the area of this rectangle here. When I do that, I get the area of the bit I do want, which is all of this rectangle but without that B at the bottom. And this is a really important way of working this out, that you work out the whole thing and take away the bits that you don't want. So when you look at this graph, it looks like it's going down as well as up. So it goes down to start off with, and then it starts going up, but then it starts going down again. And when you're looking at trends, you're looking, generally speaking, what's happening with it. So if you kind of draw a line to represent roughly where the graph is going, that line is going to go up. So the general view on it, the general trend, is that it is increasing. So you can write general increase in emissions. We're going to start off by finding what the multiplier will be. So we will start off with 100%, and it's a decrease of 32.6%. So we're going to take that away, and that will leave the percentage as 67.4%. Next we need to convert that into a decimal. So we're going to divide it by 100, and that will make it into a multiplier. And the beauty about a multiplier is all we need to do is get the amount from the question, 486, and times it by the multiplier, and it will do all the hard work for us, and it will give us the answer of 327.56. The experimental probability is the successful outcomes divided by the total number of outcomes. So we're looking for the probability that it's white, so it's going to be 25 over, and we're just going to do 35 plus 25 plus 31, which is 91, and that's our probability, 25 over 91. Be careful when it's a total, you must include all of the outcomes, so red, white and other. In this question we've got euros and we've got pounds, and we're told that £1 is 2.23 euros, and we're trying to get to understand what 2,676 euros is in pounds, and we're going to do that by finding out what €1 is and then finding out how much 2,676 are. So to get from 2.23 to 1, we divide by 2.23, and we're going to do that on both sides. And when we do that, we get 0.448 blah blah blah. And then to get from 1 to 2,676, we go times by 2,676 on both sides. And when we do that, we get £1,200. So 2,676 euros is £1,200. So we've just got to go around this two-way table, filling in what we can. So if we look here, the total amount completely is 25, so it's 25 students, and the total who said yes is 17. So if we take the 17 away from the 25, that leaves us 8. So 8 must have said no. Then same thing with here. There are 17 in total who said yes, 12 picked salad, and so therefore we take the 12 away from the 17 and we get 5. And so the total for the pizza will be 6. And then 6 plus 19 is 25, so we've got this bit along here. And then 12 plus 7 is 19, and we can check that as well. 1 plus 7 equals 8, so we know we've got it right. The first piece of information I'm going to focus on is the fact Denver gets 8/19. Denver gets 8/19, that means that Engel and Fido together must get 11/19 because they have to add up to 1. So we're only looking at 11/19. I'm going to focus on the ratio next of Engel to Fido. So it's 9 to 5. And let's have a look and see, well, first of all, how many parts there are all together. So 9 plus 5, which is 14 parts. So there are 14 parts in total, and the share that they get is 11/19. So what I'm going to do is find out what fraction one of those parts is worth by dividing 11/19 by 14. So each part is worth, and I'm just going to keep this into my calculator, 0.041 blah blah blah. And we're asked to find Fido's share. Well, Fido has 5 parts, so Fido has 5 parts, each of them worth 0.041 blah blah blah. I've kept it in my calculator to keep the accuracy, And when I do that, I get 0.206, blah, blah, blah. Now we're asked to work it out as a percent. So I'm just going to times that by 100. So we have 20.676 blah 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 percent, and it wants it rounded to the nearest percent, so that would be 20%. Or actually it would be 21%, because this would round it up, so 21%. There are a number of different ways of working out this question. You can find out the amount of tissues per penny. You can work out the amount of, or the price of one tissue, or you can get all the amount of tissues into the same amount. I'm going to find out the price per one tissue. And we're going to start off with the 24. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert the money into pence, just to mean that we don't have as much decimal. And we're going to do 807. I'm going to divide by the 24 to find out the price of one tissue. So that is 33.625. And so I'm just going to round that to 33.63. I'm just going to round everything to 2 decimal places, which says in the question. Next one, we're going to do the 20 soft tissues. So this time I'm going to do 683 divided by 20. When I put that into the calculator, you get 34.15, so that's already 2 decimal places. And then finally we're going to do the 15 soft tissues. So we're going to do the 623 divided by 15 to find the price per tissue. It should be 41.533 blah blah blah, and rounded would be 41.53. So if you buy 15 tissues, it will cost 41 pence. 20 tissues, it will be 34 pence per tissue, but 24 tissues will be 33.63. So that's by far the cheapest. The best value is the 24 tissues box. Now, there's such thing as buying in bulk. Generally, the more you buy of something, the cheaper it is. Don't rely on that. Both in the GCSE, both in the exam, and in real life. Sometimes in real life, if you buy more of an item, actually per tissue, sometimes it becomes more expensive, especially if there's a special offer on the smaller box. The lowest point on this graph is here, and that's at 0.6, and the highest point is here at 0.20. And we're looking for percentage change or percentage increase, and the formula is change over original times 100. So the change between the 6 and the 20 is 14. The original, the starting point, was the 6, and times by 100. And that gives us 233.333 blah 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 percent. And this 100 technically is 100% that we're timesing it by. So it says it wants it to the nearest percent, so that would be 233%. To find the angle marked x, we first of all need the formula that the sum of the interior angles is equal to the amount of sides the polygon has, take away 2, and then times by 180. So this has 14 sides, so it's 14 take away 2, which would be 12 times 180. And then when we do that on the calculator, we get 2,160. Now that's the sum of them, so that will be all of them added together. So to find out what x is, we just need to get that 2,160 and divide it by 14. And that's going to equal 154.285 blah 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 blah. And it says it wants it to round it to 2 decimal places, so that's going to be 154.29. So if we imagine we've got the 25 meter pipe here, and we've got the 35 meter pipe here, the question's basically asking us what can we cut all these pipes into, and they all have to be the same length, that will fit with the 25 meter and the 35 meter. And essentially what this question is asking is, what is the highest common factor of 25 and 35? So to find the highest common factor, what we do is we just find the factors of 25, which is 1 and 25 and 5 and 5, and the factors of 35, which will be 1 and 35 and 5 and 7. And the highest common factor is the number in both lists, the highest number in both lists, so it's 5. So what we can do is we can cut all of these pipes into 5 meter pipes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, not to scale, and then 7 of these. So 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and so there's 7 in total. So each of these are 5 meter long, and there's no wastage. And that's the longest we can make the pipes for there to be no wastage at all. So my answer is 5 meters. A plane of symmetry is anywhere you can cut a 3-dimensional shape, in this case a cuboid, and put it up against a mirror and it looks like the original shape. So if we were to cut the cuboid here and then put it up against a mirror, it would look like the cuboid again. Similarly, if we were to cut it along here, it would look like the original cuboid again. And finally, if we were to cut it up the top here, down, across the bottom here, and then up here, and put it up against a mirror, it would look like the original cuboid again. Now you might think that diagonal ones will work with this. Diagonal ones only work with cubes, not cuboids. So our answer is 3. Whenever you have north lines, they will always be parallel. So what we have here is we have a straight line going through 2 parallel lines, which are our 2 north lines. And therefore this angle here is going to equal this angle here. And the reason for that is that the 2 angles are alternate, they're Z angles. So we can say that that is 135, and I always like to try and show the examiner the reasons. So that's because it's alternate angles. And we know also that angles on a point add up to 360. So this red angle represents the bearing of A from B. And so to find this angle out, what we're going to do is just 360 take away 135. And the reason for that is angles on a point equal 360 degrees. And when we work that out, we get the answer of 225. So our bearing is 225 degrees. The first thing we can do is work out what the circumference of the full circle would be. Obviously we haven't got a full circle here, but what the circumference of the full circle would be had we got a full circle. So that's going to be pi times the diameter. The diameter is twice as big as the radius, and this 21 centimeters here is the radius of a full circle. So that's going to be pi times 2 lots of 21, which is going to be 42 times pi, which is going to be 131.946 blah blah blah. Now we don't have a full circle here. We've got to work out what fraction of a circle we have. Well, we obviously have a quarter of a circle. So to find the arc length, which is this part here, it's like a part of a circumference, to find the length of the arc, what we're going to do is just get that circumference and we're just going to divide it by 4. So we're going to get the 131.946 blah 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 and divide it by 4. When we do that, we get 32.986 blah blah blah. Now that's not what the perimeter is. Perimeter is the total distance around the circle. So we've also got to add on the 2 parts here, the two radii here, to get the full distance around the circle. So the perimeter is going to be the arc length plus a radius plus a radius. So that's going to be 32.986 blah 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 plus 21 plus 21, which equals 74.986 blah blah blah. And when we round that to 2 decimal places, we get the answer of 74.99. To work out the mass, we will need to find the density and the volume. Density is given to us in the question, but volume isn't, so we need to work out what the volume of this cuboid is. So the volume is just the 33 times the 7 times the 22. So that would be 5,082, and that would be centimetres cubed. And we need to write down the formula for density. So density is the mass divided by the volume. So rearrange this to get mass on its own, because that's the thing we're looking for. So mass equals density times volume. Density is given to us in the question as 2.1 grams per centimetres cubed. Times that by the 5,082 for the volume, and we get the answer of 10,672. And then that will give us grams, because our density is in grams, so that is grams, but the answer is asking for kilograms. So to convert that to kilograms, we just divide by 1,000 and we get 10.672. Then we need to round that to 2 decimal places, and so that would be 10.67 kilograms. Factorising is the opposite of expanding. So instead of removing things from a bracket, we're actually putting them in a bracket. And so we're going to start off by just putting the bracket down. And we're going to think, well, what can we put on the outside? So we look at the 20x squared and the 35x. And we first of all think of the number. So we're looking for the biggest number that goes into 20 and 35. Essentially, its highest common factor. Well, that's going to be 5. And then we look at the letters. So we look at the most amount of letters we can divide out. Well, this only has an x here, so it's just going to be an x. Then what we're going to need to ask ourselves is 5x times what is 20x squared? Well, 5 times 4 is 20, and x times x is x squared. Then to get the second term in the bracket, we ask ourselves, what times 5 is 35? Well, that's going to be 7. And what times x is x? Well, we don't need an x on the end of that. 5x times 7 is 35x. And you can actually expand that, and you can use any method you want. I'll use Smiles and Rainbows. And so we're going to do 5x times 4x, which is 20x squared, and 5x times 7, which is 35x. So our answer will be 5x brackets 4x plus 7. There's a few different methods to find product of prime factors, but I prefer using the bubble method. So we put a circle around 75, and we want to split it up into 2 numbers, so 2 numbers that multiply together to make it. I always pick the smallest that I can think of, which is normally 2, but in this occasion, the easiest one for me would be 5. I think also 3 goes into it, but 5 to me seems nice and easy. It doesn't always have to be the smallest that I pick. So 5 times what is 75? Well, 5 times 15 is 75. And then to make 15, we're going to do 3 times 5. And the reason why I've done some of these bubbles in red is that those are the prime factors, which means they can go to 1 and 5. But if you do 1 and 5, you'll be there all day. So we always stop when we do the prime numbers. And so we're going to write these in a list. So 3, 5, and 5. The product means that we put a times sign between them. But if you notice here, we've got 5 times 5. So a different way of writing that in index form is 5 squared. So our answer will be 3 times 5 squared. This question seems a lot harder than it is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by rewriting the prime factors, but without the squared. So 2 times 3 times 3 times 5 times 5. I'm going to do the same with the other lists as well. So 2 times 2 times 3 times 11. Now I'm going to put these into a Venn diagram. And so I'm just going to draw out a Venn diagram and get my 2 circles, because we're going to have the 450 and the 132. So 450 is on the left hand side and 132 is on the right hand side. And we're going to start just filling out the Venn diagram. So they both have a 2 in them and they both have a 3, but 450 has a 3, a 5 and a 5. And 132 has that 2 and the 11. Now to find the lowest common multiple, what you do is you just multiply all these numbers together and that will give you the lowest common multiple. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 3 times 5 times 5, which are the numbers on the left, times 2 times 3, which are the numbers in the middle, times 2 times 11. And when we do that, we get 9,900. And that's it. So our answer is 9,900. So I'm going to start just by writing out the equation. And I can put my lines in. Okay, we're asked to make x the subject. So we're going to first of all add 10 to both sides. In fact, I'm just going to move all this over a little bit so I've got a bit more space. Okay, so we're left with m plus 10 on the left hand side, and we've got 1/7 x on the right hand side. Now to get rid of the 1/7, what I can do is just times both sides by 7. So 7 brackets m plus 10 equals x. So x therefore would equal 7 brackets m plus 10, but it says expand your answer fully. So we're just going to expand the brackets, 7m plus 70. The important thing when choosing a sample is that everyone has an equal chance of being picked. So if you look at method 1, picking the first 30 students who enter the school is going to have a bias, because there might be a difference in the type of person who arrives early to school to the type of person who might arrive later. If we select a class in the school, then they're generally all going to be the same age. So if it's a year 7 class or a year 11 class, they're all going to be the same age. It might seem that it's fair that picking the first 30 students alphabetically, so A to F or whatever, again, that's not fair, because the people at the end of the register don't have an equal chance of being picked. So you need to make sure everyone in your population has an equal chance of being picked. So picking 30 students out of a hat containing all the students' names in is definitely the fairest way of picking a sample from this list. To draw a quadratic graph, we want to find as many values as we can. Because it's a curve, with a straight line graph you only need 3 points. With a curve you need as many as you can get. And now we're actually given a table here to fill out, and so I'm going to start off with a 0 here, and here we want to substitute in the x equals 0 into our equation. So we've got y equals x squared plus 11, so it's y equals 0 squared plus 11. 0 squared is just 0, plus 11 is going to be 11. We're going to do the same for 1, so y equals 1 squared plus 11. 1 squared is just 1, 1 plus 11 is 12. Same again for 2, 2 squared plus 11. 2 squared is 4, 4 plus 11 is 15. Now the minuses are a little bit more difficult, but not that much difficult, because when you square a negative you actually get a positive. So minus 1 squared is just 1, 1 plus 11 is 12. And then minus 2 squared plus 11, minus 2 squared is 4, 4 plus 11 is just 15. Now you can see here we get a nice little symmetry, and we're going to plot this onto our graph here. So 11 is going to be here, 12 is going to be here, so both of these are 12, and 15 is going to be here. Now when you join them up, what you want to do is avoid having a V. Okay, in the mark scheme specifically it says that the bottom needs to be nice and smooth, and avoid something called feathering where it looks like that. You just want one smooth line. Now the best way I find of doing it is turn the page sideways, which I can't do with mine, but you can turn your page sideways and just one smooth line, and we're going to do a nice smooth bottom there. And I just need to lift, try not to lift with yours, and that should be good enough for full marks. Let's just try it again, just have a bit more of a lift like that. That's also good, and I can do this all day. Like the ones that are bad are the ones with gaps, or the ones where they miss points. So if you had yours like this, where it just missed that point out, or something like that, that would not give you the mark. You just want one nice smooth, just slip there a little bit, nice smooth, and that probably wouldn't, because you can see that I've kind of hesitated there. So it just takes practice, and as I said, if you turn the page sideways, it's a lot easier to draw a C than a U. To find the exterior angle of any polygon, we do 360 divided by the amount of sides. These are decagons, which means they have 10 sides. So the exterior angles will be 36 degrees. And the exterior angle is just an angle that kind of continues on. You just continue on from the side. So this one here is the exterior angle of the left-hand decagon, and this one here is the exterior angle on the right-hand decagon. So altogether, the angle A will be 36 plus 36, which will be 72. So our answer will be 72 degrees. So this question says that Adrian, Ben and Charlie have some sweets, and the ratio of Adrian to Ben to Charlie is 9 to 6 to 13. But it also says that Charlie got 56 more sweets than Adrian. So there's 56 more sweets. Well, looking at the actual parts of the ratio, there are 4 more parts. So plus 4 parts, which represent plus 56 sweets. So the 4 extra parts are worth 56 sweets. So 4 parts are worth 56 sweets. So 1 part would be 56 divided by 4, which is 14 sweets. So all we need to do now is work out how many parts there are. Well, there are 9 plus 6 plus 13 parts, which is 28. And each part is worth 14 sweets. So the total number of sweets will be 28 times 14. So 28 times 14 is 392. So the distance initially travelled is going to be 14 kilometres for this stint here. And then we have a bit of a rest. A horizontal and distance time graph is essentially stopped. But then here we start up again to go home. And so that's another 14 kilometres travelled. So in total, there has been 28 kilometres travelled. When proving two triangles are congruent, and congruent means exactly the same, we're going to have one of 4 answers. Either side angle side is the same, angle angle side, or angle side angle. Side 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 are the same, or they have the same right angle, hypotenuse and side. This question doesn't have a right angle, so we can cross that out. It has 2 lengths, so 2 sides, but not 3, so we can cross that one out. It only has 1 angle, so we can cross this one out. So we're looking to see whether it has the same side, then angle, then side. So here we've got 13 as a side, then 139 as an angle, then 6 as a side. 13 as a side, 139 as an angle, and then 6 as a side. So they have the side, angle, side. There's a lot going on with this question, so I'm going to start off just having a look at the total amount of money. So I'm going to do this in pence, so 2115 pence. And if each merit point is worth 3 pence, then we can work out the amount of merit points by doing 2,115 divided by 3. So that gives us 705. So there's 705 merit points. Next, have a look at the question here, this part here, where it says James has X merit points. Sarah has 4 times as many points as James, so she's going to have 4x. Robert has 69 fewer merit points than James, so he's going to have x minus 69. And we know that that equals 705 because we've just worked that out. And this feels like a solving coming on. So we've got x plus 4x plus x, which is 6x. Minus 69 equals 705. And we're going to add 69 to both sides. So we've got 6x equals 774. Then we're going to divide 6 both sides. And so we've got x equals 129. So x equals 129. That means James has 129. Sarah has 4 times more, so she will have 516. And Robert has 69 fewer, so we're going to take 69 away from that, and that will equal 60. So the only way of answering this question is to work out what these are as ordinary numbers. And so 7 times 10 to the power of 7 would be 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 9 times 10 to the power of 4 would be 90,000, so that would be 9, 0, 0, 0, 0. And so we're just subtracting them like that. And so we'll get 6, 9, 9, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. And obviously if this is on the calculator paper, just type it into your calculator. There are no tricks here. You can't do anything with the 7 and the 9. You're not subtracting powers or anything. You're just literally typing in what it says. And there's a button on the calculator like that that you will need to use. So if you don't know what that is, ask your teacher or ask someone to help you out with that. We can write the equations of all linear graphs as y equals mx plus c, with m being the gradient and c being the y-intercept. The easiest thing to find is the y-intercept, because it's just where the line crosses the y-axis, so that's going to be minus 2. We're going to use that point, so the point we've just drawn on, and we're going to have to find another point to find the gradient. Now, I don't really like this point because I don't really know where that is, and we've got to find a coordinate we know the coordinates for. So looking at this, this is a nice coordinate here. And what I'm going to do is just draw a right angle triangle between the 2 points. Try and get it as nice as I can. And we're going to work out how far up and how far right we went. Well, we went 3 right and 4 up. Now, to find the gradient, what we want to do is we find out how much y has changed, so change in y, so that's how far up it's gone, which is 4, and put that over how far right it's gone, so the change in x, which is going to be 3. So our equation is going to be y equals 4 over 3 x minus 2. Whenever we do these kind of questions, it's always best to convert the pattern into numbers. So we're just going to count the dots. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 in the first one. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So our sequence is going 9, 13, 17. And we're going to see what it's going up in. So we're adding 4 each time. And that means our sequence will involve 4n. And then what we do is we go backwards 1 to find the 0th term. So we're going to take away 1. So 9 take away 1 is 5. So the 0th term is 5. And the 0th term just tells us what to add on to the 4n. So 4n plus 5 will be our answer. To work out the area of this sector, there is actually a nice little formula that we can use. And I'm just going to show you what the formula means. So the formula is going to be what fraction of the full circle do we have? Okay, so we're going to find out the fraction of the full circle we have, and then we're going to times that by the area of the circle. So to work out the fraction of the circle we have, we get the angle that we have in the sector, and we divide that by the total amount of angles in a circle, which is 360. Then we times that by the area of a circle, so pi r squared. Let's use that for our question. So the angle we have for this question is 57 times pi r. Now, to work out what r is, we just imagine the circle is whole. I'll do a badly drawn circle. And you can see here that this length here, this 5 centimeters, is the distance between the center of the circle and the circumference. So that is a radius. So it's going to be times 5 squared. Put that into your calculator and you'll get 12.435 blah blah blah. And it says it wants its 2 decimal places, so we round that to 12.44 centimeters squared. First thing we need to do is work out the volume of this prism, and it's a trapezium based prism. So the volume will be the area of the cross section, or area of the trapezium, times the length, how 3D the prism is. So trapezium is half a plus b h, and then times the length. Now a and b are the 2 parallel sides, which will be this one and this one. And then the h is the perpendicular line that hits both of them at 90 degrees. So what perpendicular means, between the bases. So this will be the 25 meters here. So it's going to be half, and then we're going to add 1 and 5, times that by 25. The length is how 3D it is, so it would be that 10 there. So we're going to times that by 10, and that will give us 750. So it's 750 meters cubed. Now, there is a little formula we can make for the rate. So the rate of anything for this will be the volume gained over time. Now, with this question though, we're interested in the time it will take. It says how long will it take. So we're actually looking at the time. So it will be time equals the volume, which is 750, over the rate, which is 15. So 750 divided by 15 is 50. So it will take 50, and let's have a look. It says per minute, so it would be 50 minutes. So what's happened here is that the company's increased the amount of sweets by 15%. So we're just going to focus on that and work out what the multiplier would be first. So they started off with 100%, and they added 15%, and then therefore they ended up with 115%. And to find that as a multiplier, we get the 115 and divide it by 100, and that gives us 1.15. So that is the multiplier they used. Now, they used that multiplier on the original amount, and they times it by 1.15, and they got the answer of 69. But if we're working the other way to find out what they times by 1.15, we get that 69, and we divide it by the multiplier. So if we want to work out what the original number was, we divide it by the multiplier, and that gives us 60. So the answer will be 60. So there are two outcomes that it will rain once in the next 2 days, and that will be rain and not rain, and not rain and rain. So to work out the probability, it will rain on Monday and then not rain on Tuesday. What you're going to do is just multiply 6 over 20 by the 2 over 7. So 6 over 20 times 2 over 7. And that will give us 12 over 140. And to work out the probability, it will not rain on Monday and rain on the Tuesday. We're just going to multiply the 14 over 20 by the 5 over 7. And so that would be 14 over 20 times 5 over 7. And that will give us, 70 over 140. Now we're looking for the probability it will rain and not rain, or not rain and rain. The word or in probability means add, so we're going to get that 12 over 140 and add it to the 70 over 140, and that will give us 82 over 140, and then we can cancel that down to 41 over 70. So we've got to first of all realise that these triangles are similar, so we can work out what the scale factor is. We need two corresponding sides, which I'm just going to pick these top ones, and we're going to work out the scale factor from those. Now, scale factor is how to get from the smaller to the bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 91 divided by 13, which is 7. So we know we times 7 to get from the small to the big. Now here we've got a problem because we're actually going from the big to the small. And when we go the opposite way around, so instead of times 7, we're going to divide by 7. So on our calculator we do 126 divided by 7, and we get the answer 18. So we can't work out length CE directly, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by finding length BC. And I'm going to do that using trigonometry. So we've got the 90 degrees there. So it will be, well, we'll start by labelling it. So BC is the hypotenuse, the opposite here and adjacent here. We're not using the adjacent. So we're going to just do our SOHCAHTOA, and we've crossed out the A, so we cross out these two. So it's going to be sine. So we know that sine 79 equals the opposite, which is 29 over the BC. So I'm going to put my solving lines in, and we need to times both sides by BC first of all. So we end up with BC sine 79 equals 29, and we're just going to divide both sides by sine 79. Just a bit of rearranging. So BC will be 29 over sine 79. And when you do that on the calculator, you get 29.542, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so next thing we need to figure out is angle BCE. So where are we? This angle here. And to work that out, we're just going to take 79 away from 90. So angle BCE is 90, take away 79. And that's going to be 11. So we know this is 11 degrees here. And we have enough information now to work out CE, because we've got this triangle here, and we've got this length here, the BC, and we've got this angle here. So we've got enough information now. So we're going to look for length CE. We're going to first of all label the sides. So we've got the opposite here, the hypotenuse opposite the right angle here, and the adjacent here. So this hypotenuse is now an adjacent. We're not using the opposite at all, but we are looking for the hypotenuse. So let's do our our little triangles now, find out which one we're using. So we're not using O, so we get rid of sine and tan, and it's going to be a cos. So it's going to be cos 11 equals the adjacent, which is the BC value we've just worked out, over the hypotenuse, which is CE. Now hopefully you've realised from when we did it with the sine thing here, that actually we can just swap these two things over. So we can have it as CE equals 29.542 blah 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 over cos 11. Okay, then we put that into our calculator and we get the answer of 30.095 blah blah blah, and it wants it to one decimal place, so that will be 30.1. There are two shapes we need to find the volume of. There's this cylinder here and this hemisphere here. So we might as well start with this cylinder. And the formula for the volume is pi times r squared times height. So it's the radius is 9, so 9 squared times the height, which is 30. And when we work that out, we get 7,634.070, blah, blah, blah. Next is the hemisphere. To find the volume of the hemisphere, well, the volume of a sphere is 4/3 times pi times r cubed. But because it's a hemisphere, we just times that by a half. So it's half times 4/3 times pi times r, which is the radius, which is 9 cubed. And that gives us 1,526.814, blah, blah, blah. And so the total volume is 7,634.070, blah, 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 plus the 1,526.814, blah, 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 which equals 9,160.884, blah, blah, blah. It says it wants it to two decimal places, so when we round that, we get 9,160.88. To be able to work out this question, we need to work out the amount of student hours required to paint the wall. And to work that out, we've got 6 students and it takes them 11 hours. So 6 times 11 means it's going to take 66 student hours. So if we had 1 student, it would take 66 hours. 2 students would be half of that because they share the work, and etc, etc. So here we've got 6 students and it take 11 hours, and it says how long will it take 7 students. Well, if there's 66 hours, or student hours, but they're sharing the time, we just divide 66 by 7. So 66 divided by 7 is 9.428, blah, blah, blah. And it says it wants its 2 decimal places, so it will take them 9.43 hours. Now check this makes sense. We've got 6 students and it takes them 11 hours. So we'd think if we had more students helping to paint the wall, it would take less hours. So we've gone from 11 hours to about 9.5. So that sounds right. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.